And today we're talking about the benefits of art for health, which is a big subject, but something close to our hearts, yeah?
Yeah, definitely. I suppose we want to kick off with the reason why we started this podcast in the first place is that we're both big believers in the benefits of creativity to mental health and physical health, aren't we, Debs? And I think we've both had personal experiences with it that, we're really passionate about people being creative.
Yes. And we'd go even further than that because we think that being creative can affect what happens in your life, really. Mm-hmm. So if I talk about, I got very poorly in my 30s and I ended up having to retire from work through ill health, and I'm not going to go into great detail about this because that's not going to help you at this point. It meant that suddenly I went from a full-time job. I'd still got young children at home, but I needed something to do, to be honest. I needed something that gave me purpose. So I started to seek out what to do. And it helped me, but it helped me so much more than I realised. And I think I literally was just looking for something to do with my hands because I was having difficulty with walking, I was having difficulty with mobility, but my brain was still quite active. And so I needed something. That's where I started with art. It's not strictly true because I always did poetry when I was younger as well. And what happened was, through my illness, the art and the poetry both helped me to get through. And the poetry in particular, I used to look at my old poems and sometimes they felt relevant to where I was now. But the art, it started off as an activity. In fact, it started off as craft. That's how it started. Just because I was like, well, what do I do? So we'll talk in great detail about health and well-being, why we think it's good. But that's where I started. Yeah. And what about you, Ruth, then?
Well, for me, I've always been into art, and when I was at college, I did fine art, I did painting. Then I went to university and did a design course, and then after university, it was 2008, I graduated, which was when the financial crash happened, and I found myself just having to get a normal job in a shop. I was always doing art and creative stuff kind of on the side, but for quite a few years it was really a point of frustration for me where I was trying to get into a design career, and for all sorts of reasons it didn't work out. And then I got to a point in my life where I felt quite despondent by it really, and actually got myself into quite a low point because I thought, is this ever going to happen for me? Am I ever going to be able to do anything creative? So I stopped doing anything creative for about a year or two. And then I just found myself really quite low, to be honest, in my mood. And then I thought, well, I'm going to go back to it. But this time, instead of focusing on a sort of career and how it's all going to work out and getting bogged down with all that stuff, I'm just going to do it for the fun of it. So I started painting again, and that's when everything changed, when I took the pressure off myself and just started doing something that I really loved again, and all sorts of doors opened for me, and I just felt much, much better within myself in terms of my mental state of mind, and I was just getting a lot out of it, and obviously I've since got a lot out of it, which we'll go into a bit more detail with. But yeah, I think it's fascinating really. Just as soon as I gave myself permission to be creative for the heck of it, then everything started to get better in my life.
And that's really interesting because I hadn't even thought about it. But when I was really quite poorly, I went to see a doctor, and the doctor said, what would you do if you were well? I was like, if I could do anything, I think I'd go and take a degree in music. And I don't think he said, what's stopping you? It's just that I came home and I'm like, maybe I should just do it. I wouldn't have been able to go to a brick and mortar university, because if I'd gone there, then physically it would have been too much of an effort, and sometimes I'd relapse and I couldn't do things, so I couldn't keep up that regular timetable, I think is the word. So what I did was I went to Open University, and really when I think about it, that probably started my creative journey. That was the start of, I started the craft group because I wanted them to have a craft group in our local branch of the MS Society, and they didn't. So I was like, right. Somebody said to me, "You could start one yourself." I'm like, "But I don't do craft." They were like, just do it. It was the Millennium Awards. They were giving Millennium Awards out, so I did that. But the point is that it was at the time that I thought, I'm going to do this for myself.
Yeah.
So I did this degree, I started doing it because I love to learn. That was for me. It was like, what would you want to do? I'd want to do that. Yeah.
And in terms of, if you look back kind of retrospectively, how do you think it's changed your life, creativity?
I feel that it seriously changed the focus from, I felt that I started to improve my health when I stopped focusing on the illness, and the creativity gave me something to focus on. I did have the family and do all of that sort of thing. The family also was a focus, but I just started to focus on living my life.
So it got you more kind of in tune just with yourself and being present. And
it did actually. Yeah. I didn't think of it like that at the time.
It definitely helped me tune into my authenticity and listen to myself more and tap into that intuition. Because I think even if you're doing art as a hobby, you really want to be specific about what it is that you want to express or what it is that you want to make. And you have to spend some time reflecting on who you are and what you want, which sounds quite a lot, doesn't it? But I think you do naturally start thinking about yourself a bit more and what you're interested in, and
Yeah, I think it's like we talked about last time with the intuition. If you start breaking it down, everything sounds a lot, but you're not expected to. I didn't know these things were happening.
No, it's a journey, isn't it? You do it step by step. Yeah.
Yes. Yeah. And you don't see the bigger picture at all. You just take those little steps. And it's only later that you reflect back and go, actually, if I hadn't set up a craft group and I hadn't had that doctor who I felt was a bit mean, to be honest. I felt, but it gave me a little push. And at the time, if I hadn't just taken those little steps, then I wouldn't be here. What is amazing is it feels like only now am I exploring my authentic art. Yeah? So a lot of the time I was just doing it because I enjoyed doing it and exploring. Yeah. And that's what I'm doing now, really. It's just that I'm further down the line. So I feel like I'm starting to get somewhere. It takes a while, but it's an enjoyable process. So every step, you're getting a little bit further down the line, aren't you, too? To be honest, is about expressing yourself. And I think that's why it probably links so much to health. Because if you can express yourself and be authentic, then your health is bound to be impacted.
Yeah. So we're going to be talking about mood, I suppose the mood boosting element of art, not just the mental health side, but also the physical health side, and why we think it's important. I mean, you touched a bit on the physical health side, Debs, when you were talking about your personal journey and how that helped you almost have a distraction, so you weren't as caught up in your physical state. It gave you, I suppose it can be a place to escape to, can't it? It
can, but it also can have a physical effect. What I mean by that is, through this process, I have actually done some rehab as well. And when we went to rehab, it was really interesting because they did physio and the physio gym not quite as you imagine a gym. But also they did occupational therapy, and that included at one point doing pottery and clay. And it was interesting because it was to do with strengthening hands. So there is an actual physical improvement as well. So for example, when you're painting, I tend to stand when I'm painting, and it's not just the mood boost. However, we have talked about this before. There is a definite mood boost to paint, because if you don't paint, that's when you notice that you get grumpy.
yeah, definitely.
So I don't know whether other people probably have other things that make them less grouchy.
Yeah.
But there's definitely
maybe going
something.
to the gym or something like that for other people, or
Yes, yeah. But from our perspective, and I'm sure lots of people who paint would feel the same. However, I think the art, it just relaxes you. It does.
It does. And there's obviously there's scientific proof that it helps with lowering stress, lowering your anxiety, improving depression, even improving your immune system when you're doing art. And I think it is about taking that time out for yourself and just starting to slow down. That was a really big thing for me. I think especially in contemporary life as well, it can just be so much and move so quickly, and there's so much information out there now, and even social media can be quite stressful at times if you're not in the right frame of mind for it. So I think there's definitely something in slowing down, taking time out, because when you're doing your art or your craft, generally speaking, it's not a quick thing that you're doing, is it? It's something that you're building up over time. I mean, my paintings can take months to do, but I find that really rewarding, that you're going back to something and you're working on it, and then you look back in a few months' time and you think, wow, I've finished a collection, or just taking that time out, slowing down.
I think I see people that arrive in class as well, and they've never painted before, and then because you're saying about you've produced a collection, but when you first start painting, it's like, wow, I've produced a painting. Yeah. It's that there is a huge sense of achievement. Sometimes there's some frustration. It doesn't always work.
That's natural. Yeah.
But it does definitely create a sense of achievement, a sense of purpose. Would you go that far?
Yeah,
yes,
I would, definitely.
For me, for certain.
Yeah. I think creating something that wasn't in the world before, and something that's totally personal to you, is something to be really proud of. But I think it's in all of us, that kind of ability to create something and be creative.
Absolutely. Yeah, and not everybody will be creative in the art. I mean, we're talking visual arts because that's what we do. I've also created poetry, and I know lots of people who do that. It doesn't have to be one form of art. I think this applies to everything.
Yeah. We'll put the arts into a category, whether it's visual art or a different kind of art. It's about expressing your emotions, isn't it?
In a weird way, a lot of people think of artists as insular and a lone artist. I do think that that's a bit of a myth, because I think artists do like other artists.
Yeah, I think we're drawn to each other, aren't we?
Yeah, and I think there's a lot of social goes on in the art world as well.
Yeah, which is obviously also good for your health, to be sociable and mix with like-minded people that you can have interesting conversations with, and sometimes be a bit nerdy about what
I was going to say something.
Using,
I was thinking exactly the same thing.
You can indulge in those sorts of conversations.
Yes, in your topic of interest.
Yeah.
What colour paint you're into at the moment.
Yeah.